Hey guys, it's Brian with Workshop Addict. We have Craig here who's a local excavator, and we worked together to get a review done of this Ridgid SR-24 utility locator. This is a pretty cool tool because it brings in Bluetooth technology, it's got integrated GPS, and it allows you to do some mapping and bringing just utility locating together with archiving information, keeping it together so you know when you come back to a site where it's at. So I'll let Craig kind of talk about what we have, and we'll move on to show you how it works.
Well, like Brian touched on, the SR24 is not only just a basic utility locator, but it does have the GPS and mapping abilities with it. What we're going to do today is we're going to take it out, set up a couple of scenarios, trace some lines, just so you can kind of see its abilities and what it can and can't do. And we'll get back from there. Also, what we're going to be using is the Ridgid ST-305 line transmitter. It's a basic line transmitter. It sends a signal into a line that we want to trace, and it enables us to trace it. We'll touch on that a little bit more too as we get into it.
So we're going to cut now to going out and tracing a gas line at local customers of Craig's, and we'll kind of give you an overview of how it works.
Okay, we are hooked up to a plastic gas line with a copper tracer wire with the Ridgid ST-305 line transmitter, and we're at 8 kilohertz on the transmitter and 8 on the utility locator, and we're going to do a little trace here of it. And you can see we have a static line, and the reason for that is we have all of our utilities that are in the ground here that are probably causing a little bit of bleed over on the gas line. We're going to spray it for right there. But as we move away, it does clear right up. There's a good mark right there.
Just watching this unit be used to find something and to tell you how deep a wire is or how deep a gas line is in the ground, it was simply amazing, and it was actually fun to sit back and say, where are all the utilities at that location? But to start it off, the actual line transmitter is what starts the use of everything. So why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
I believe this is probably one of Ridgid's basic line transmitters. It actually has quite a few features on it. Works very well with the SR24. How we were using it would be a direct connect that's hooking our lead to a conductive tracer wire on that plastic gas line like we did, getting a good ground and sending the signal out on that tracer wire, and the unit picked it up just fine. That was how we used it there. Another mode that this can be used, we do not have it, is an inductive clamp. What it is, it's an insulated clamp. So say if we wanted to energize a power line, where obviously we're not going to clamp onto a live power line with these metal jaw clamps. You know, you can put this clamp around it. You don't have to touch anything. It's safe. And what it will do is energize that line with its signal that you're sending through it, which will allow the locator to pick it up. The third capability that this has is the inductive mode, and what that is simply you keep your leads wrapped up. You can set the transmitter over top of the line that you want to be locating on, and it will send a signal down into that line again, which the unit will end up picking up. It works very, very well. We've had no problems with it so far. A little bit of disturbance when we're around a whole group of utilities, but you know, it's something that with the 3 different settings that you can set up on the kilohertz, you can adjust that stuff, send a stronger signal out, which kind of overpowers everything. This picks it up a little bit better, works really well.
In the location that we were in, I mean, it seemed like all the utilities came into one spot. So there was a lot of stuff going on there.
And obviously once we got out on our own, cleared right up, worked very well.
And what I really like about the SR24 is the capabilities it has technologically. Watching it and seeing that it's constantly data logging to a micro SD card that's in it, and it also has a USB port, so if you connected it to a computer, you can output that file. And then with Bluetooth capability, you can send all that data logging to your phone, to your iPad, to a tablet, even a computer these days, and deal with all this mapping while you're right on the go. Basically, you can be on a job site and be just pumping this stuff out, so you're not doing it multiple times. Just the capability and technology that they're putting into these items now just make it very fun to watch.
You know, and we're talking about the mapping and the capability of it, recording things and keeping track of what you're doing. You know, for me in real life, what I think is amazing about that is so many times we'll go in on a project, put a bunch of utilities in the ground, and you know, 5-6 years later, you're back out there doing an extension of the project, and you think you remember where things were, and a lot of these things are private, so you can't just call up Misdig and get them to come out and restake it. So by being able to do this, say at the time of installation, you can do a beautiful map of it, keep track of it, store it, give it to the customer, keep it on file at the office, however you want to handle it, and you can always refer back to this. It's really unique. Even as say a municipality, somebody that's trying to keep track of utilities that contractors like me are putting in, they can bring this out, trace these lines, download it onto their maps, and it's there forever. Just a really amazing feature for something to have. So after making the map, we got to use the line transmitter to make a few different lines traced on it. We used it in a couple different modes. Then also on the power line and the phone lines there, we weren't able to clamp onto with the transmitter because they're a live insulated line. So we set the SR-24 into a passive mode, which allows you to trace a line without making contact with it. And it did a good job at finding that. You can see the map ended up quite complete.
Yeah, the map's cool. I really like the map. You know, long-term storage of this stuff, and get into archiving and different things. And if you ever come back to that job again later, you can always just pull out the map. While things might have changed, it gives you a great idea what was there.
Absolutely. It seemed to be able to find everything we were looking for in that scenario.
Now, some of the things that this works on are, I mean, it kind of baffles you a little bit of how does it actually find it. But we were able to pick up a lot of different things, but you have to have some sort of conducting wire, if it's a plastic line or a drain line. And it really makes you think, if you're going to actually put something into your house and you're just putting in a plastic drain line, you might as well take the time, wrap it with some sort of conductive wire. Wouldn't that make sense?
Absolutely, because there's too many times that you are running drain lines and things that are very important, and there's no way to really trace them with the setup we have. Obviously, Ridgid does make a line transmitter that you can send into the drain line to trace it, but it's another item that you need to own. And if you don't have access to it, it's just as simple as dropping that tracer line in the trench with that pipe or uninsulated plastic line, whatever it is, so you can find it down the road.
I mean, to me, it even goes into a sprinkler system. And just thinking in my yard, you know, we actually have a situation coming up where we're going to have a sprinkler system that's going to go on or have to be dug around, and I have no way of tracing it other than to turn it on and guess where the lines go. So I wish some of the things that I learned while watching this being used would have been available to me when I was actually building or putting things together.
Yep, absolutely. The SR-24, it is a very sophisticated utility locator. There's a lot going on with this thing. It does a very good job with it all, but it takes quite a learning process to get through it all. And it never does seem to do a bad job on what we're trying to do with it. It just takes a little bit to learn, and once you seem to get the hang of it, it's very, very, very useful.
And the cool part about it, when you're using it, and you can hear some of the noises in the video, when you're crossing different lines or when it feels like it's in a fuzzy situation or it's getting static, it gives you static through the speaker. If you're to the right of the line, it makes a different noise. If you're to the left of the line, it makes a different noise. And you can turn all that stuff off. But it's interesting to kind of hear what the unit's doing. And it gives you so many signals as to, hey, you got to move this way, between visual signals and also audio signals. Plus connecting it to Bluetooth, so you've got phones, you've got all this stuff going on at once. You think it's information overload, and while there is so much going on, you do have to learn it. This is something you're going to want to read the manual on and use it a couple times. But after a while, even for somebody who doesn't do this like me, watching it, I can kind of pick up on it and say, hey, here's what it's doing. It's giving you feedback all the time. And that was a really nice technological part of this that brings it all together. But will this technology actually be used long-term in the field? And that's why we brought Craig in. We want to say, how are you going to use this in your excavating company?
Well, obviously the utility locating on it, we'll be using it all the time. The mapping feature, like we kind of touched on with the map we created, just the ability to be able to record what we've put in the ground and keep it on record, pass it to our customers. It's going to be very helpful. And too many times we go back on jobs, we just cannot remember what we did exactly. We'll pick everybody's brain that was on the job that day, and it's hard to remember them. You go on so many jobs throughout a year. I really think that municipalities are the ones that are going to benefit from this thing. Just the ability for them, there's so many municipalities in our area that have no records of what is in the ground. And the guys that did know are long gone, retired, gone out of there, and these young guys coming in, they don't know. A lot of accidents happen that way. Obviously, this thing will never replace calling Miss Dig. You always have to call Miss Dig first to get them to come and locate your lines. But Miss Dig does have its limitations. They will not stake out private lines, and that's where something like this comes in, and you can take it from there. It's going to prevent a lot of issues.
Well, we don't have video it. The one thing that I really think was neat, while you have all this drawn out, you're digging into the ground, this unit actually told you how deep the wire or whatever you're locating is in the ground. So you could have an excavator sitting next to you digging a hole and still have this in there searching, okay, what way is it? And it can save you time because you're not hand digging as much. Well, you're still going to have to hand dig. There's no
Absolutely,
doubt. But
absolutely.
it seems like a time saver for many people who are in your business.
Yep, and it's going to make things safer. It's a very unique tool. With the mapping, it just sets it above anything that I've ever come across. When we first got it, I'm not going to lie, I was a little leery on the design of it. It looks a little flimsy, but it's built very tough, actually. It folds up very nice.
It does have a case.
Does have a really nice case that both fit into. And it seems like it'll hold up to the rigorous activity you're going to be using it in.
Yeah, I mean, it does look odd. I mean, it's got pucks everywhere in this round tube. But when you really put it on the ground, and I guess even if you're in the hole or where you're at, it seemed like it set on the ground well. And I mean, we were putting it in places and setting it down. It didn't seem to have any issues with any type of use that we had. And beyond that, I know that some of the employees at construction companies can be a little harder on things. Everything looks good here, although it just has an odd look. But it obviously has that odd look because it serves a function. So if you're in the market for a utility locator, or if you think that this video might help you decide or push it over the edge and say, hey, this is a tool that I'm looking for, check these out on Ridgid's site. You can also stop by workshopaddict.com. We have a lot of contractors who stop in, talk to us about the different tools they use. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel or just leave a comment below, and we'll try to get back with you really soon on that. We can answer questions, or we can even ask Ridgid questions for you about this tool. And we appreciate your time watching this video. Have a great day.
Thank you.